Okay. Welcome. I am super excited to be here. This is part 2 of I Survived Black Culture. I made part 1 knowing that I would make a part 2. So part 1 was more sharing a personal experience along with observations and data from the field. And in this part 2, I'm going to be explaining a little bit more about the mechanics of systemic power, as well as just getting deeper into what I meant by Black culture. So I was happy to have some conversation in the comments. Those of you who have commented, thank you. I always like to see where everyone's mind is at when I broach subjects like this. And I just want to say, I am in no way the first person nor the last person to talk about culture and talk about brainwashing and talk about systemic design. So yeah, open your ears. There's a lot of people talking about this. There's a lot of people of all subgroups talking about this, and so just remember that the purpose of this video is to stimulate discourse, to stimulate thought, and to stimulate change, right? So in part 1 of I Survived Black Culture, I talked a lot about the mechanics of culture and how lots of people, lots of subgroups think that they have a culture when they really don't. The main culture that I'm speaking about is I call it the American death culture, right? It's this American culture that's all consuming, all knowing. It takes and commodifies every little thing. It takes every sacred part of our ancestry, every sacred part of our stories, and turns it into something flat and two-dimensional and lacking life. And we see this a lot. I happen to use Black culture as the example of this flattening, of this illusion, because I lived it, simply because of that. But I'm pretty sure you can attach any adjective in front of culture, whatever cultures are out there, what we call cultures, in this country, in America, and you can see the same patterns that I'm talking about. So again, I want to say that talking about Black culture is probably one of my favorite topics to broach, because there's just so much to unpack. And once we unpack all of the mud, all of the pain, all of the emotional investment, you see underneath that it's pure gold. And when I say pure gold, I mean it is a valuable, bountiful, abundant, sustaining entity, sustaining piece of human history. And so this is why I go so far to kind of talk about these things and break down culture, because I call myself an excavator of reality, okay? Once I understood that using the media machine, using communications theory, the digital age, that there was so much illusion and so much power condensed in a few hands, and these hands wanted to maintain the structure and maintain the paradigm, a lot of these things made sense. I was able to separate myself from the things that I once identified with, and understanding that these things were not helping me, they were harming me. Black culture is, when I say Black culture, I'm more so specifically speaking right now of blackness. Blackness cannot be fit into a box, okay? We don't have a culture. You know, we have community, we have a community, we have a group of people who have grouped themselves according to ancestry, skin color, demographic grouping, but we don't necessarily have a culture, like I said in part 1, that educates our kids, that feeds our children, feeds our women, feeds our men, that is an independent government, is self-sustaining, is self-regulatory, all of these things that constitute culture, right? And culture is ultimately the operating system of reality. And when you look at it that way, you're able to understand what I mean more by there's no such thing as Black culture. And I survived the thing that they did give us, right? And so understanding that culture is the paradigm and it's the rules, set rules, and it's the operating system of reality, we're able to then say, okay, there might be some good things coming out of this group of people, this community who has endlessly and tirelessly worked for their liberation. But how come we're seeing these patterns, these outcomes of devastation, of trauma, of violence, of pain, of poverty recycle over and over and over again? This must be part of the system. It must be part of the operating system, which is, in this instance, in this video, is Black culture. So we're going to break apart a little further this operating system of Black culture and really dig into it so we can understand what it is that I am saying. Most of what I say is not just opinion that I just took out of my back pocket and was like, here, this is how I feel, deal with it. No, this is a well thought out, almost decade-long process of study, of research, of writing, of travel, of observation, of real scientific, method. So I just want to say that what I say, again, I could make 10 videos and maybe I'll make a part 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't know until I feel satisfied with this conversation. This conversation is not meant to just bring clicks in and leave people feeling emotionally distraught or lost. This conversation is here to bring information, bring knowledge, bring lived experience and wisdom so that we can come together and collaborate on a way of perhaps creating an operating system for Blackness to thrive. I'm so happy I got to this point. Like, you guys don't understand. Blackness is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing. And to see it so manipulated and messed up and used for, again, devastation and used for a specific paradigm, for a specific role instead of what it can be and what it should be, it just feels good to be able to finally have the courage, 1, and 2, provide you guys with a new frame of reference. This is what this is all about, a new frame of reference. So when people are like, Black culture, we lead with entertainment. We lead with, oh my gosh. Okay, so real quick, it just turned like 80 degrees. And so, everyone has their bikes out, music's popping. Everyone's loud as can be because we're celebrating. So if you hear the commotion in the background, my apologies. Bear with me. But back to the scheduled program. When people speak about Black culture, the first thing that people run to, right, is music. entertainment, sports. We have these things. We rule in these things. We rule style. We rule music. We rule entertainment. People want to be like us. We have the aesthetic. We have the sauce. We got the juice. And that is 100% true. And I agree wholeheartedly, right? But again, that's not culture. So then what is it? What is this thing that we possess? And how can we transform it and turn it into a culture, right? And this is where things get really interesting. So there's this distinction, right, between aesthetics and culture. Aesthetics and culture, however, work in tandem, right? So they create a cybernetic loop, meaning that they create feedback loops that determine further outcome for how aesthetics are shaped. And then those aesthetics will therefore shape culture, and that culture will therefore shape aesthetics. And it's a feedback loop, right? So we're in the age of cybernetics. I'll do another video touching on cybernetics and like communications theory and information theory and philosophy in general. But we're in the age of cybernetics, right? We figured out that things are systems. Most of these things are systems that rely on information as a feedback to determine the behavior of the system, right? So our human body is a cybernetic system. Computers are a cybernetic system. The ecosystem, the climate, right? And these things can be affected by positive or negative data, information, behavior, etc. Won't get too deep into that. But we have aesthetics and we have culture, and they work together. What we have called Black culture is Black aesthetic. And Black aesthetic, like I said, is powerful because aesthetics can shape culture. So we're sitting on something that is absolutely ripe with potential, right? Ripe with the ability to change reality and change the paradigm as we know it. But we're not using it in that manner, and we haven't been taught to use it in that manner for a reason, because we are not the purveyors, we are not the creators, we are not the curators of culture, we are the curators of aesthetic, right? So aesthetic is the symbols that we form and the meaning we attach to it that influences, like I said, culture, our values, our behaviors, our mindsets, etc. So when you understand that, let's revisit contemporary American Black aesthetic. I don't see much and I'm talking more so what is being pushed for us to consume and for others to consume. I do not see much life. I don't see power. I don't see respect in the sense of a global understanding of what people are interfacing with. Instead, I see games, play. I see manipulation. I see confusion, mass confusion. I see all of these things. And so, yeah, that's what aesthetic is. And that was what the Black American aesthetic is. And I'll hear people say, but wait, but we have, okay, we have other things. We have other paradigms. And this is why it's so important, because we sit at this precipice of greatness, this ability to create something huge, to create a culture, to take responsibility, to create sovereignty, a space where Blackness is divine. You know, it's fitting somewhere where it can thrive, where it can imagine new worlds. Enter in one aesthetic that I absolutely love that's backed by philosophy, backed by its own philosophy, and creates a roadmap and a blueprint for contemporary Black Americans to then create a culture off of. This is Afrofuturism. This is the power of aesthetic, y'all, okay? So we have our pop culture Black aesthetic, which doesn't really feed us, doesn't really do much for Black people, white people, anybody who, you know, we live in America. We all part of it together. It doesn't do much. It creates division. It feeds violence. It creates time loops where people are stuck revisiting old stories, old patterns that keep them from building something new, that keeps them from overcoming and creating an infrastructure of greatness, an infrastructure where there's actual power. And then we have paradigms like Afrofuturism, which says, okay, like one of the greatest examples, Black Panther. Like, come on, Wakanda, when you see that scene, you know, like, I know, I'm like, okay, where is this place? Like, can this place be real? And that's the key. Can this place be real? Yes, it can be real. It can absolutely be real. But we have to get on board with being culture builders, with being world builders, in order to bring about, in order to manifest something as great as that. I have a couple notes. So I'm going to read some of my notes because I took the time to really think about what it is I wanted to say. And I don't want to forget anything. Okay, so we did that. Okay. Okay. So, using structural philosophy as, you know, my foundation, no pun intended, of what I'm speaking about, we have to understand again and reorient and get comfortable with defining culture, right? Emil Durkheim, who was a sociologist, I forgot what years he wrote, but he specifically said that culture is an organizing system. And because it becomes a self-organizing system, there are certain behaviors, tastes, perception, mindsets, environments that we get used to, and we stay in those things because the system is self-organizing. And if people or if a machine or whatever is running correctly, people are running correctly. People are doing things the way that they're supposed to be doing. People are, sorry, it's getting a little dark. I didn't realize how dark it was getting. People are behaving the ways that they need to do. So when we say, okay, when we realize culture is an organizing system and people are being organized, I'm not one to be like, oh yeah, I want to be organized into poverty. I want to be organized into lack of values. I want to be organized into confusion. I want to be organized into pain. Like, I don't see us voting for that. I mean, now I do, in a sense, because it's self-perpetuating and we are modified. We have been behaviorally modified to agree with our position in this organizing system of American culture. But if we could take a step back, we none of us want this. We don't want this for ourselves, and we don't want this for our brothers and sisters and our children. So that's one. I like to say that we have gotten to a point where Black aesthetic has been detached from American culture. in the sense that it's now a self-organizing system. The aesthetic has become a self-organizing system with little impact on the larger culture, right? The larger American culture. And this detachment has severed the feedback loop where blackness or the Black identity, because that's exactly what I'm speaking about, because blackness cannot be put in a box, remember that. But the Black identity is self-perpetuating and stuck, recycling over and over and over and over and over again without much interference, right? We're stuck in time loops, i.e. the era of enslavement, or what is it that everybody loves, the 90s. Like when I started seeing people born in 2005 having 90s themes parties, even my generation having 90s themes parties, like, okay, we're like the late 90s, so like we don't really know what the 90s is, but we've accepted this aesthetic as ours, and this aesthetic signals to others in our group that we are in the know, that we know what it's like to be Black. Yeah, so in that sense, I say Black people, again, with the I Survive Black culture, Black people are cultural orphans. We don't have a culture. We have an aesthetic that has become detached and automatic. And not much has changed in the last 30 years, 40 years or so, considering the amount of genius, the amount of creativity, the amount of power, inner power that lies in the blackness and Black community, right? And so I just, bear with me. I want to hit all these notes because this is imperative to understand. And so now that we understand that Black people are cultural orphans and that culture structures meaning, where do we fit in? Where does Blackness fit in if we don't have a culture, but culture creates meaning? We're out of the equation, and we can see this in our environments. Our environments, just use your eyes, use your senses, look at the environments where many are herded into. These environments do not create value, do not create safety, do not create wealth, do not create generational respect. It is a cesspool. And while I think the hood in general is a very special place, because if you can make it out the hood, you can really do anything, and that's not something that they're gonna tell you. Like, people who live in these environments and alchemize their way out of it, hands down, like, the amount of power you have, the amount of power you've cultivated, that is what we need to focus on. That is what we need to proliferate. That is what we need to share. And nothing else at this point, right? We're at a critical point. Nothing else. So if culture is the structure, aesthetic can be the expression of that structure. And so this is where we enter with music. Now, I always think it's quite ironic that Black people have been gifted with probably the most powerful catalyst for change, which is music. And this is where it's like, okay, we can create a culture and break through this existing paradigm with this one weapon, which is music. Look at how our music is. Although I do listen to it, I am not, like, Paradox is crazy. Being integrated in the real world is crazy. I listen to a lot of, like, the music in pop culture from Black people coming out. I think we all do. Like, it's fire. Like, it's a vibe. Like, it's wow, that energy is intense. But if we were to listen with intent, if we were to just sit there and really think about where does this fit in our greater story, in the greater story of one Black people and humanity, we can see, if music has the power to bring together, almost like a psychedelic, break barriers and create group cohesion, do you think that that understanding, that power, that ability would be encouraged by the current operating system, by the current rules set in this paradigm? I don't think so. I don't think so. And so when you do listen to a lot of the music and the content that is being consumed in these environments by these people, you will see that, okay, I understand what's going on, because there's nothing fruitful here. It's a vibe for sure, but in terms of fruitfulness, in terms of preservation, in terms of what impact will this have for our grandchildren, I'm just not seeing it. So when I think about culture, I come from a biology background. I love science. I love biology. Biology is the study of life, right? So it's magnificent. Honestly, the amount of design, the level of detail. I love biology. One of my favorite things was understanding protein structures in the cell, right? So proteins can take on different structures. They can have a primary, secondary, tertiary, or quaternary structure, meaning, gaining in complexity as it progresses through the level. And one thing about proteins is that they're the structure. They create the structure for life to sit on, the blueprint for life to sit on, the foundation for life to sit on. And they're so complex. But there is a phenomenon called denaturation. Denaturation, I think. Biologists, help me. Is it denaturization or is it denaturation? I'm blanking right now. But it's the process of these complex shaped, structures, protein structures breaking apart. This can happen through high heat, or this can happen through enzymes, catalysts. So I said, okay, if, hold on one second. I'm going to have to start part 2. Okay, I'm back. My baby was crying. But okay, like I was saying, in biology, we have these protein structures, and the way that they can break apart is through enzymes, through catalysts. Enzymes have the power to break these things apart. So when I think about culture, I say, okay, there has to be a relationship. Everything's interconnected. How can culture, which is a structure, be denatured? How can they be broken apart? Through what means does the body, through cells, through living life, through any cell, any living organism, break apart proteins? It's with enzymes. So what is an enzymatic phenomena? What is an enzymatic entity that we have in order to break apart culture, in order to renew and to rebuild? And this enzyme is music, black aesthetic. So the thing used to keep us sick, to keep people depressed, to keep people hopeless, to keep people in cycles of poverty and violence, this black aesthetic, when we take responsibility and understand the gold that we have in our hands, the black aesthetic can be an enzyme for catalyst for complete paradigm shift, complete transformation, change, destruction of an old system, an old structure, so that we can rebuild. This is why I'm so adamant about saying I survive Black culture. Because if we don't get out of this, if we don't get out of this mindset, if we don't get out of these values that have been implanted, these behaviors that have been implanted into our minds through media, through engineered environments, right? Through social experiments. If we don't overcome this and take a step out of it, take a step out of the box, be a pariah and be happy being one, right? If we don't do that, it's going to be a constant feedback loop. Like I said earlier, how aesthetic informs culture, and culture can therefore inform aesthetic. And then aesthetic can be completely detached from culture, where it's self automating, right? And self automating for what right now? Destruction. So if we understand, hey, wait, the very thing that has been cultivated and curated to dampen, to erase the fire, our fire, can be used to rebuild, to change course, to change direction, to create a Wakanda for real, to bring into existence the tenets of Afrofuturism and Afrofuturistic philosophy. We can do that with the things that we have. We just have to change the content. We have to change and take ownership of the mindsets that we're proliferating, the values we're proliferating, and so forth. Easier said than done, right? And I think that's the thing. Once you accept that this is all work, life, we're going to work regardless. We can work in the same space that we've, stuck in the same position we've always been in and just work ourselves to death. Or we can work ourselves to life and create something worth living for the next 7 generations. I survived Black culture because I'm here talking about the future of Blackness. I care about that. I care about my children. I care about others' children. And it would be gross negligence of me to not say otherwise, to not speak up, to not create a framework, a body of work that speaks about this, that offers, a blueprint for other people to follow outside of what has been given to us. I think that's pretty much what I want to say. Um yeah, I think I'm done. Part 2 has been very good. And again, this is food for thought. I do have a body of work that I'm building, essays and the like. You can find me at Pariah Juice on Substack. So pariahjuice.substack.com. Go subscribe. It's 100% free. Yeah, like we're just shooting ideas. It's a public draft at this point. We're just shooting ideas out there. And the point is, conversation, the purpose of conversation is not just to hear each other listen, but to do something, right? Is to build something, is to build trust, to retrain ourselves, to relearn how to participate in discourse, to participate in dialogue, to hold opposing truths and still be able to sit in the same room and be in the same comment section without cursing each other out. Baby steps, okay? Baby steps. Um, you know, at this point, if you're not going to watch the video and you're going to comment, just save it, because I don't have time for that anymore. Like, that's like weird. Don't be weird. If this title made you click on the video and you were able to, watch the whole thing and you're like, hell yeah, just give me a hell yeah, like whatever. But participation is what's going to get us to where we need to be and where we want to be. And, I don't know any species naturally that encourages and partakes in behavior that leads to self-annihilation. Like, that's not natural, right? So if we know that that's not natural, we know that there's something sinister, that there's something behind these things, that there's a specific design to make lots of people act a certain way. And for all those who are absolutely enamored and in love with their blackness and have managed to find the harmony and the balance of being beautifully, amazingly, juicily black without being in a box, continue being you. The world needs that. The world needs that. You are the enzyme. You are the piece of the puzzle. But yeah, I feel satisfied with this topic. If you guys have any questions or any specific direction you want me to go in for the next video, just put some suggestions below. I forgot to link the Dr. Amos Wilson in the last video, so I'm gonna link that in this video. Give it a listen, because like I said, I am not the only one. I am not the first one for sure. Like, many people are understanding what I'm saying. So take the time. It's in 2026. The world is crumbling. Okay. The world's doing us a favor right now by crumbling. So we need to step up and take our positions as rightful stewards of the present and the rightful stewards of the future, and like put our money where our mouth is, right? Like, if we really got the swag, if we got the juice, like, prove it. Let's prove it. Like, let's let's make the world poppin', you know what I mean? But until next time, my loves, yeah, have a great week. Remember, be yourself always. Um, educate yourself, read, take care of yourself, drink water, eat fruits and veggies, do something that brings you joy, fall in love. Like, just remember that these are the things that keep us inspired to create the future. But yeah, until next time. Ciao.